Hello, I'm Trevor Welch and you're watching The Works Talk Sports. Great to have your company, and we're in the company of one of Cork's finest ever athletes, Walker, an Olympic medal winner and a world champion in Russia 2013. He is, of course, Rob Heffernan. Rob, great to see you.
Great to see you.
I know you're a busy man, so thanks for taking time out from your busy schedule to join us. Before we start talking about your own career and your own long journey to the top, let's talk about how important this year is, 2020, for athletics in Ireland. The Olympics, of course, in Tokyo. How are we fixed going into it from walkers, first of all?
We could have potentially 5 walkers qualified. Like Brendan Boyce finished 6th at the World Championships in Doha last year, and hopefully the conditions are going to be a bit similar. And his training, I'm coaching him, his training's even better now than it ever was at this time of year, so he's in really good shape. So it's going to be exciting to watch him, because it's going to be a positive story. I think he can finish top 8. And then if he gets into top 6 territory, you don't know what's going to happen. You've Alex Wright, who's qualified for 50k, who's a lot more talented than Brendan. Really, really talented guy. VO2 max of over 80, but he's never delivered on a championship. I don't know what it is, so maybe he could be a surprise in the making. And then we have David Kenny from Kerry. Really good young fella. He finished 9th in the European under-23s this year. Kate Veal, who was former world youth champion, I'm coaching her as well. She's on the way back. She's an outside chance of qualifying. And you've a young fella, Keane McMenamin from Westport. He has a chance of qualifying as well.
You qualify for 5 Olympic Games, of course, the first and probably only Irish athlete to do so. There was talk that you might have gone to Tokyo yourself to compete. Was that a real kind of possibility at any stage?
I genuinely think I could, but if I weighed it up, I'd be missing out on too much. If I had to make the decision to go back and train, I'd have to miss out on so much with the kids, and I'd have to be so selfish. But I do think...
Age wouldn't have been a problem though, you're early 40s.
I'm 41 now, but my body's still... I've had no injuries, everything is good, but I know the lifestyle that comes with it, and I'm not willing. I'm not willing to do it.
You've seen the world, a marvellous career, which we'll get to later in the interview. But you spoke there, Rob, about, one of your walkers has struggled in major championships. Olympic medals, as you know, are hard to come by. What's your main role with these? I know you will be in Tokyo anyway with the walkers. You will be travelling for the Olympics. So what's your main role? Like, is it down to kind of mentality and obviously using your own experience?
Yeah, I plan with Brendan, Kate and Dave. I plan everything. I plan the whole year, their treatment, their gym. I plan the whole year, their camps, their races. They're racing now in France on Sunday. And even chatting to Brendan today, it was like going to the race in France on Sunday. It's not that it's important in the big picture, but it's important to set the right tone for the year, that you need to go out and realise you're a 50k walker, you don't have natural speed, and it's being comfortable with what your strengths are, and you have to go and really hit the race really hard from gun to tape and ruthless aggression with it, and there's no other option. You're not as good as... And then Dave, who I'm coaching, so it's a bit of manipulation. Yeah. You've a lot more pace than Brendan, and you need to be on your game to beat him, so you have the tools to beat him, but he's not going to let it happen for you easy. So he needs to be able to deal with that pressure, because in 2 years' time, I think he can win a medal under 23 in Europe, and I think potentially he can be a medalist. So I think for both of them, to put them in that environment racing against each other, they have different pressures, but if they both perform to their ability, they'll come home happy,
How much changed in your game, in the walking game, since your first Olympics in Australia in 2000? How much has the sport changed over the years?
It changed with me, because when I went out there, I had a massive kind of hang up. Obviously did a load of sport growing up, and I met the guy who won the 20k and the 50k in Sydney, and I got my picture taken with him afterwards. And I had a hang up growing up that I was small and from Tokyo, kind of a chip in the shoulder, and Korjanowski was smaller than me, and I was like, I have no excuse now, your man's after winning the 20k and the 50k. So I came back from Australia and I trained really hard, and I emailed this guy, Robert Korjanowski. He invited me to go to South Africa, and the learning over the next 5 years was just very, very different to the Irish mentality. And it was nothing to do with it being walking, it was just the preparation of sport, how you prepare for a championship, how you compartmentalise your whole year, and how you periodise everything. And it was a completely different mindset. And it probably took me a good 4 or 5 years to learn it, Trevor, because we're bred differently here. We're emotionally different, we're more passionate about sport, and we're more emotionally involved in our sport, where the lads in Europe, they're a lot more professional, and, they do the work and they get a return for their investment. And, so, it was very different to Sydney.
Yeah, in terms of support from, we'd say, our governing body, with Athletics Ireland, I know that you've come out against them in the past as you know, they could have been more supportive, but like, has that changed, or you know, is that still a problem that our athletes compared to other nations could be getting more support financially and otherwise?
Financially, it's good. Like our grant system and the support, like definitely the institute now in Dublin is brilliant. You know, you've the indoor track, you've all of the physios, doctors up there, but the place is closed at 5:30, you know. There's not many full-time athletes in Ireland. No, I think things are a lot better in Ireland. The medical support is definitely a lot better, but for athletes to compete on the world stage as a senior, they need to prepare like the top countries in the world as well, and they need to be full-time. And I think if we had accommodation up in Blanchardstown and Abbottstown area, and you were able to use the facilities there, and you had access to coaches and physios, the nutrition, the psychology, if it was all in one area where you could kind of access it at different points of the year, that it would be a lot better. The supports are there, but it's a little bit like if you're down in Cork, all of the support is in Dublin. So for argument's sake, now Brendan, he's after being put on the top grant this year, which is brilliant. He has access to physios, he's access to nutritionists. A lot of them are based up in Dublin. But what he needs is somebody daily on the ground who can look at his technique and, you know, like if you gave Ronaldo 10 million a year and just told him go to the pitch and play football on his own every day, it's hard, like, you know, there's nobody critiquing you, there's nobody developing your mentality. And so we do need more full-time coaches on the ground instead of just giving the athletes the funding, having the resources around them, you know, and but it's definitely better than what it was
you're
before.
heavily involved in, like, coming up to the Olympics. You have a few walkers outside of Ireland as well that you're, tell us about that. And
I'm coaching a guy from South Africa. Really good guy again, but it kind of had no direction. And
does he come over to Cork?
He's coming over at the end of the month, so hopefully he's going to race a couple of races in Europe, and I'm trying to get him to go to Spain then with my lads here. But I'm in contact with him every day, and then I'm coaching a British guy who was former world junior champion. So he's left the British setup to come over here. And the gas thing is, he had everything in the British setup. Every full-time coaches, full-time training centre, all of the support on his doorstep. And he came over for me to coach him, and really, I'm only a volunteer. And he stayed with kids, so he had everything, and he thought that it was just going to be the same in Ireland, and it wasn't. I think he's a bit disillusioned, you know. So, but he could be really, really good. Like, you know, he's good for my boys as well. He's a good marker for Dave and for Brendan, and it keeps the group really competitive as well.
We talked about this in the past, Rob, that, you know, the 2016 Olympics was tainted with, you know, controversy from an Irish point of view. But you were kind of telling me that the athletes don't really buy into it, like, or they just kind of ignore it. They're like, it was kind of embarrassing, though, was it? It was embarrassing,
but I think in Irish humour, I think when you're so focused on what you have to do yourself, my abiding memory of Rio and being around the Olympic Village and the stadium is just Paddy Barnes coming out with a robe on, and fellas wearing robes for the crack, like laughing at Pat Hickey being caught in his robe in the hotel, and it nearly broke up the tension, and, you know, they made fun of it, but it didn't, I don't think it affected the athletes' performances at all. But I suppose when you look at it from the outside in, it's very embarrassing, you know. But the athletes, when they go to the Olympics, stuff like that, genuinely, it does. They wouldn't flinch over it. But it's only when you take a step back and you're looking, just going, oh my God, it was absolutely terrible, you know.
Yeah. What would Tokyo be like? You were in Beijing, weren't you, in 2008?
And I was in Osaka in 2008. Yeah. It'll be brilliant. The Japanese it's like the future. They're so organised. They're such nice people, and everything will be top notch. It'll actually be a brilliant Olympics. Rio as a whole wasn't. You know, I think the divide between rich and poor, there was no, like, the Olympics normally brings everybody together, but where it wasn't there, you know, the rich people got to enjoy the Olympics and they got the tickets, whereas you come out of the Olympic stadium and there was slums outside the stadium, and the normal Brazilian people never got to enjoy the Olympic Games, and they were kind of kept away, and, you know, it wasn't nice, like, you know, because sport ultimately should bring everybody together. But I think Tokyo will be brilliant.
Looking forward to it, definitely. I mean, just about your own rise to the top, Rob, and you know, there's been a bit of debate about where you were born. Like, people were saying Ballyvahan, Turner's Cross came in there, and Toker, where I'm from myself. You might just clear up that for us first of all.
I was born into flats in Toker, And I moved to Argadine Lawn. So I was living in Argadine Lawn. The bars was at the back of my house. And then I moved to, I don't know, it's the Turner's Cross or Ballyfian. It's Dorrynan Road. The lads would have saying, hey, if you got stopped by the guards, you were Turner's Cross. But if you were down in the park, you were from Ballyfian, you know. So.
And when you grew up, I mean, like, first of all, and there was a lot of institutions around you. You mentioned St. Finbar as an institution. You know, great stars like Jimmy Barry Murphy on the place. You had Cork AC, you had Crease
Trevor, you know, we were so lucky indirectly growing up. On my road alone in Dorrynan Road, next door to me was Christy Ryan, who had medals with Cork. My brother-in-law's dad had an All-Ireland minor medal, Mick O'Shea, who was a big entrenched in the GA in Cork. You had Fifi Fitzgerald, Charlie McCarthy, you had the O'Regans, you had Marcus O'Sullivan, only 300 metres down in Congress Road. You had Tony Nation and Doyle Road, Colin Cocker, just so many, Stephen O'Brien and Father Matthew Road, you know, so many sports stars in such a small area. Like, and then when you moved to Togher, we were spoilt, like, you know. And all different sports, but and it just normalised. It normalised kind of success and being good. But I think sport has changed now in the sense that passion and talent alone doesn't get you to the top. You have to have the right coaches in the right environment, because every sport has got so professional, you know, so just talent and passion alone and being from Cork doesn't cut it anymore, you know.
Happy days. But sport has always been in your family, isn't it? Like, traditionally.
It has. Well, it has and it hasn't. Like, I kind of paddled my own canoe when I was younger. Like I remember when I moved from Togher to Turner's Cross, there was such a strong sport in history in Schuil Crease 3 and Coláiste Crease 3 and meeting good friends there. I was brought in and I played football with Nemo growing up, and then just getting involved in athletics in Coláiste Crease 3. I did a lot of it on my own, you know, so I wouldn't, like, I think the second race my dad ever came to was the Olympic Games where he won a medal. Do you know, it was my fourth one. But it was at different times, and I'd go into Nemo on my own, I'd go into Togher SC on my own, and you'd relying on John Hayes, who was the coach around the corner, who used to bring me to training in Togher AC 3 nights a week. And then I had Mick Buckley's dad, Sean, who used to bring me to Nemo. And if he didn't bring me, I walked there. So I think that culture is gone now, because coaches can't bring kids to matches or to coaches. So unless I had them people involved in my life when I was younger, I mightn't have been involved in sport at all, Trevor, you know.
Was Crease 3 where you got involved first day in walking? Like, how did that come about? I know you were an athlete, you ran.
I ran, and I was playing football with Nemo at the time, and I wanted to be on the football team in Crease 3. And Brother Cullum, the fellas were only over 6 foot tall, like, and I was about 4'7" in first year, like. So we used to go to multi-gym, and one night we were up multi-gym, we used to do the weights, we used to have a game of football at the end of the night then with a tennis ball. It's like MMA before it was ever even been invented, you know. And coming up to the track season, one night the brothers ran a competition for the indoor triple jump, long jump, indoor pole vault, and then they had a race, walking race, all the technical events. And they just became another competition. And there was a guy in the school, Trevor Murray, who was a really good footballer, but he was walking as well. And, you know, Trevor was really popular, and you're kind of going, Trevor's doing it. And I didn't even win the race, you know. I had trials for the school team, and Brother Cullum had a thing, you know, if Rob Heffernan was taller, he'd be the best walker in the country. And I'll show Brother Cullum, you know, and he ended up passing away then, like, as I was getting good. But there was just a culture of athletics in the school as well. You guys doing the hammer, the javelin, and, you know, so it was just, it was normal, Trevor, like, you know.
What was your first big race, then your first big win that you said, wow, I have a chance here progressing this, and I could make a really good career of being an elite athlete? I
left school when I was 17 to do an apprenticeship with my dad. My dad was a plasterer, and it was normal, do the junior sort, and you go in and you do your apprenticeship. So, I was working with my dad for a while and kind of took a growth spurt. I grew from 5'1" to 5. I'm 5'8" now, by the way, but I grew from 5'1" to 5'3", but I started getting really good at athletics. And I turned up at a race up in St. Aidan's, and I finished 4th or 5th in a cross-country race up there, but it was a huge jump from where I was. And Brother Dooley said to me, he said, "You're scholarship material." And I couldn't believe it. Imagine, like, originally from Togher, now doing an apprenticeship with my dad. You don't get any kind of positive attention. And I went back to school, and I went back, rejoined 5th year, then did my leaving cert in Coláiste Crease 3, and I went to the Northman for a year. And then indirectly I started getting better at walking as well. So I'm really good at running and really good at walking, and I won the national championships walking under 17. So did my leave and went to the Man, And that year up in the Mon, I qualified for the European Junior Championships walking, but I also ended up the Mon's #1 runner, and I got offered a running scholarship to America. So I went off to Slovenia then, and I missed my sister's wedding at the time. So when you go back to my family support me, they were like, "You're going to Slovenia? Where's that, by? Is that up the north side?" Do you know? And I was like, "No, I could qualify for the European Juniors," and they started laughing. Like they were like, "No, you're just madness," like, you know, because I wouldn't have travelling or anything at that stage. So I did qualify for the European Juniors, and I went over there.
It was the late 90s, was it?
97. And when I came home from there, it just broadened my horizons and mindset again, and I declined to go on the running scholarship, and I said, "No, I could be really good at this," like. And I went back to college then, and I did a sports injuries diploma, and so I could kind of concentrate on training and study. And I said, if the athletics doesn't work out, at least I'll have, you know, I can do sports therapy, like. So I was kind of thinking practically all the time. So then I went on and I qualified for Sydney then 3 years later, so it was a good decision, you know.
Yeah, and it was a dream, obviously, to come true, to qualify for an Olympics. Huge. Australia 2000, yeah.
Huge from where I was coming from, you know, working class boy, going to an Olympic Games, you know, hanging around, like, even I'd be chatting to my Cahill now, it was like, Cahill, the wheel hasn't been reinvented with kids your age, you know, kids 15, 16 drinking. Doesn't mean you have to do it. I remember being down the park with the boys, and I could be running laps of the park, and the lads could be sitting down drinking cans, and I'd come back and sit down with them, but I wouldn't have done it. But I was mad, just mad into sport, and I'd still be good friends with them. No, good lads, but you know, they're still living at home with their mum and dad and stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's but then the landscape kept changing. Every opportunity that I was given, I would have been very practical, and I'd kind of going, okay, why is he able to do it? Why is he able to do it? What are they doing? And I was always learning and adding ingredients to myself, you know.
Yeah, is it a lonely sport?
No, I think when you're obsessed when getting better, and when you're looking at ways that you can get better, and when you're looking at guys like Robert Korjanowski, for me, was just brilliant the way he approached this whole year, the way every single thing he did was for a reason, and he had all of the support around him. And you could give out about that, but sometimes when you have all of the support around you, there's an expectation then for you to deliver on the big day, and that's huge pressure. And it doesn't matter if you're a footballer, you know, a hurler, an athlete. Only a special person can perform under them circumstances, you know. And so there was always, things kept on changing throughout every Olympic cycle, Trevor. You know, I was always going, no, I need to do more, I need to add this, I need to do this, and you know, so it doesn't become lonely when you're obsessed with getting better, you know.
And the next Olympics then would be the 2004, the home of Olympics really, with Athens. And, you know, you would have seen your growth and improvement. It must be usually just frustrating in 2004 then to be disqualified in Athens. Because it's technical sport and
it was horrible. Like, when I look back now to Athens, 8 days before the race, I did a session in Athens. I did 1:23.50 in training for 20k, which would have finished me top 8 in the Olympics 8 days later, or 9 days later. It was my last hard session. But I pushed it too hard that day. I got gastro, so I was put into quarantine in the village. And then in the race, I was in 11th or 12th position at 11 or 12k, and I got disqualified. And Robert Korjanowski was helping me at the time. And after the race, it was very kind of like the lads from Cork were like, "Oh, you were done, mate. You know, you're Irish, and you know you were grand." And Robert rang me straight after the race, and I remember walking away from the course, and he goes, "You know, Robbie, I am sorry, but this is correct decision. Your technique was really bad today." And then when you're kind of look, yeah, it is, and you're kind of going, you know, he had no agenda. Say he went on to win the Olympics over 50k, but when I look back on it, then you go, okay, I was sick. I was really, really weak. So when I got tired, I started leaning back, and my technique was bad. So when it's broke down to you that way, you go, okay, so how can I eliminate getting sick the next time? You know, so yeah, it's, you know, instead of looking for excuses, look for reasons, like, you know.
You were probably dying for the next Olympics to come along, 2008. Just give us an idea of like what kind of preparation for an Olympics you go through, like just an idea of your training program and your diet and so on.
Well, with Brendan, because it's the same, that they would race in August, so I give him September off, tell him go mad in September, enjoy himself, you know, just you don't have to train, you go for the jog for your mental health, just try to move. But no training. And then in October, when we start back. The whole month of October would be, the lads are running, so they'd still be running 50, 60k a week, which is not training, it's just activity, and doing their prehab and getting treatment and making sure that their body is fully recovered and fully healed before we start back on a new cycle. So always the 1st of November would be the start of the new year. And the 1st of November, the first week in November, probably only covers 70 or 80 kilometres. The next week might be 90, 100, then 110, 120. And by the time we're up to Christmas week, their longest walk on Christmas week would be 35k on the 23rd of December. And you're up to a good level of training that week. Christmas week would be easy. And then in January, there's a little bit more intensity now. We'll do an indoor race in France at the weekend as a test to see how they are technically, physically, how the training is going. Do another big block of training, do 2 more races. At this end of February, the start of March, and then go back to altitude into the mountains in Spain for another 4 or 5 weeks. And then when they come back down from the mountains, they'll do 3 weeks at sea level, really intense, and then they'll race the World Cup in Belarus on the 2nd or 3rd of May.
Some schedule.
And then after that, they'll take 10 days recovery, and then we'll repeat the cycle up to the Olympic Games. So everything, every single week and every single month is tiered, and every week's training is different. So the 80k, say, the first week in November could be when he goes to Spain on the 12th of March to the 6th. That could be 190 kilometres at his heaviest week at training at altitude, you know. So, yeah. But the 80k is just as hard. Do you know what I mean? So it's and then obviously it's all geared towards peaking in May, and obviously then in Tokyo, you know. So it's that's why people go, do you want to go back?
I'm tired listening to you there now.
I know.
But the 2012 then, of course, you came so close to winning a medal. As it happens, you did win a medal.
Yeah.
The bronze, you had to wait years for it. Just tell us a bit about that. The Russian, in the end, was found out, and just how you felt being outside the medals in 2012. And then,
Trevor, I was outside the medals so many times. In Beijing Olympics, I finished 8th, and I was leading the race at 13, 14k.
Yeah.
And I genuinely thought, this is unreal, but I'm going to win the Olympic Games. I was thinking coming down Patrick Street in the bus and coming off the plane, and you know, I genuinely got carried away in my head. It was like Father Ted thing with the trophy, you know. It was like, this is and the Russian put the boot down, who's banned now for life, and he won the race. But the big learning thing from that, I didn't even learn from that race. I let his strength become a weakness on me, and I ended up finishing 8th in Beijing and really depressed the next year after that, because Marion firmly believes, she goes, you were good enough to win a medal, you messed up. And it was still the best result in the Irish team. So the next year was really tough. I finished 4th in the European Cup the next year. The next year after that, I finished 4th in the 20k in the European Championships, 4th in the 50k. So knowing after being just outside the medals 4 or 5 times, so I started getting used to it. And kind of going, you know, I don't deserve to be good anyway, you know, normal fella from Cork, you know, you don't deserve to have an Olympic medal. And then I remember one European Cup in 2010, I led the race for 18k, and I got passed by 3 Italians with 1 or 2k to go, and because I completely froze. So regardless of fellas being on drugs or not being on drugs, my performance, I got so tense and I got so obsessed about wanting a medal that it wasn't happening. I was completely freezing at the end. So then in London, I raced the 20k, I finished 9th. I had a brilliant race. Just went gun to tape. I knew I didn't have the wheels at the end, and I goes, if anyone's going to beat me, they're going to have to work for it. Then in the 50k, I genuinely executed the perfect race, regardless of Corjapton being on drugs. I didn't let him come into my thought process at all. I had my whole race mapped out, and it was just a brilliant, brilliant performance. And afterwards, when I finished 4th, it's fine. I did everything I could. And obviously, there was the part of me that didn't have the medal, and I was upset about that. But I was like, no, I was really happy that I delivered a perfect performance for me. And I was kind of going, you know, and Marion was happy. And
how important was Marion to you in your coaching? I know you sacked your trainer, manager brought in Marion.
I did.
How did that work at the time, and how important was that move?
The big thing with Marion, I think, with any fellas, and you even see it now with Cahill, with the football, because football is bigger, the amount of people who have an agenda when they're trying to work with somebody who's at the top level, it can be draining, you know. You don't know, you know, who to trust. But with Marion, it was 100% she had my back, like. So everything she did was to help me and help her family, and I didn't have to second guess anything. And that year was really, really good after London. Like, I was going to retire after London, and Marion turned around and she said, no, I think there's more in you. And Marion obviously went to the Olympics, and she kind of realised all of her dreams, and she said, I think you can be better. And Cahill and Megan were like, no, Dad, we want you to continue. And Marion goes, I'll help you next year. I can see areas where I think you can improve, where I can eliminate some stresses in your life. And she says, all you need to do is just shut up and train, and I look after it. So I'm in a pool in Belmedina, and I was there. And I was pretending, I was like, if I had the contract here, now I get her to sign it, you know? I was like, this is like the Carlsberg conversation. She goes, I look after the kids, I'll do everything. You just train, and you rest, and you train. So she said, we'll give it a go until Christmas. And, you know, and it was lovely, like, you know, she became pregnant that year with Regan, because we planned to have a baby after the Olympics anyway, and everything was great. And just that year I had no stress, like, and all I kind of said, if I can mimic 2013 to the drive that I had in 2012, do everything that I do with the same enthusiasm and the same motivation, imagine a fella from Cork can go into Russia, where the boys are all juiced out of their mind, and regardless of them being on drugs or not, if I perform, I can rattle them on their home ground. So I built up this thing in my head, it was like Rocky going over, you know, and because I love the pressure, like, and then I said, and if it doesn't come off, sure, you have an excuse anyway, you know, so.
And you delivered, I mean, you reached the mountaintop in Russia, winning that gold medal. I mean, you just saw the pictures over and over again, the emotion coming into the stadium and passing that line. Just describe what that feeling was like for us.
It was unreal, because I went through a strategy in Russia, because I had to kind of go over all of the kind of insecurities I had in my previous races and missing out medals, and that I wanted a medal so bad. I wanted to prove that us Irish people, we can compete at the top. And I spoke to a psychologist about it in Spain. She works with La Liga players, actually. Patricia Ramirez was her name. And she got me into a mindset, like I had this kind of analogy that this Norwegian guy who I competed against is 6'2", and he got bigger and stronger when I got tired, and it kind of crushed me. And she said, okay, you have these things going on in your head, but you can't deal with them. Push that to the side. You have to focus on your legs, K1, hips, K2, your arms, K3, K4. You've trained so hard for this, you deserve this. Your body's full of oxygen, you feel really good. And then K5 was all of the support that you have at home, all of the people who are behind you. And then K6 was back to my legs, my hip. That's all I focused on, the here and now and what I had to do. And I took it bit by bit by bit. And my mind never derailed. And even Marion on the drinks table, it was just a wink or a nod. It was like, no, it's fine, it's fine. And everything was really calm. You know, so coming into the stadium then was the first time my mind started to wander. And all was coming in. I remember, even if you see it now, I had Ireland across. And I was like, you know. And it was always a thing when I was away with the Polish would say to me, you know, Robbie, you are very good for training, but you Irish, you're silly. You cannot ever compete in championship. You are stupid. And it always irked me, like, you know, it's like, no, nail this, like, you know.
I'd prove him wrong.
I'd prove him wrong. But there was a truth to it, you know. Irish go away and they give out about the heat and they give out, no, we're all the same. So coming into the stadium was like going, you know, this was my dream come true. And then I realised I was going to win with 300 metres to go. And my right hamstring went. And then I started panicking, and it was nearly like an anxiety attack going, oh my God, if my hamstring goes, my technique will go, I can get disqualified still. And then I had to kind of, that 50 metres was complete turmoil.
It's ever present, isn't it?
And then it was like, calm down, relax, just go back. And then with 200 metres to go, I remember looking at my watch and going, oh my God, I'm on for 3:37.50. And I never knew what time I was on for. And then I tried to boot it home again, and like even going over the line, I always had a vision, like going, being majestic, you know. I was like, my arms up, but my body was so big, I came over the line, and it was, I don't know, was it a Cork thing or an Irish thing? And I was shy. I was like, and that's the picture now. I'm like that, Trevor, you know. I was like, you know, and but yeah, it was unreal, because I think when it happens, I had this vision, you know, if I won, jump into the steeplechase, go crazy, and I just felt really awkward. It was the only thing that I kind of didn't plan for, you know. Yeah,
all the hard work paid off, and you know, when the national anthem was played and the Irish tricolour was going up and you were getting that gold medal around your neck, it was very emotional, wasn't it?
It was unreal. Like, it was like somebody asked me in a school the other day, and I said it's still surreal to me, you know. And it was just something that I was really, really proud of, being away, being Irish, and even being away. I remember being out in Spain one year and watching the Irish soccer team getting trounced 8-0 by Spain. Remember that? And I localised it back to Cork. I said, all right, I'm Irish, but I says, I'm Cork. Our population's only this, and then started rattling off all of the sports stars and our Olympic medals. I goes, we're different, you know, we're stronger. But just to be up, it was just, you know, it was a dream come true for me. It's still a dream. It's still
and the
a dream
homecoming
to me.
was very emotional as well, and the numbers that turned out.
It was unreal.
Obviously,
100,000 people or something.
That's 110. That's a memory like that will always stay with you. Obviously, coming home to Cork with that medal.
It was unreal. I always remember coming off because Shawnee Mack in Soho was a huge support to me throughout my career. He came
Cork
to
hurler,
me,
wasn't he?
yeah, Cork hurler, and it just tells you how the Cork community get together. And he came to me for a massage. Sport. He had a problem with his hamstring back in 2001. And he tell you, he goes, this small little skinny fella's going to do nothing. And I butchered him, like, he couldn't believe how strong I was. And from there, every year, he'd throw me a couple of grand for the camp. And he says, only in one condition, he says, if you ever win a medal, the homecoming is going to be here. But on the off, what was the chances of it, like? So he erected an illegal scaffolding in front of Soho that night.
That's
and
right.
it was magic. It was magic,
incredible.
like, it was
And
brilliant.
you had actually a few drinks that night, did you?
I did. You go too fast, like, the night just, you know, just goes so quick, you know.
And then roll on a few years. Like, did you know, how soon did you know that there was a chance you were going to get that bronze medal, that the Russian guy was going to be disqualified?
I always felt at the time, you know, that there was an outside chance about it because it was so obvious, like your man Kurjapkin did his last 10k faster than what his 10k PB was. And you know, to anybody who does any distance, it's impossible, like. And his times, none of the trajectory added up. It was just all, so you're kind of hoping, and to be fair, it was a government thing. It's it's not like an Irish athlete, the 2 or 3 Irish athletes who we've had in history who've gone down the dark road. Russia, it's systematic. So it's not him deciding that I'm going to go in, I'm going to do this. It's just they're in the system and the coaches and the government do it. And it's not his decision, you know. But if you take the doping aside in Russia, Trevor, how they prepare, they have the best environment and the best setup for performance sport. They're driven to win. They bring in all of the best athletes. It's a really the survival of the fittest, and then they cross the line to make sure that they win, which is wrong.
Yeah.
But there's still a lot of positives that you can take out of their setup, you know. Yeah. So, but when he did, you're always hoping that with the politics involved with Russian money supporting IAAF and all of that, you're hoping that there's going to be honesty and integrity within anti-doping and that they're actually going to take them down. And to be fair, they're doing it, like, and, you know.
It's good to see that.
Yeah.
And another unforgettable night then in Cork to get that bronze medal in the Cork City Hall. Was that better than getting it in London? Or
It was, because if I got the medal in London, maybe I wouldn't have having the same desire or the chip in your shoulder that you kind of need the next year to go to Russia, because there's a big part of me that felt robbed, you know. But if I got the medal in London, who knows? I could have just relaxed and, like, you know, and the next year could have been. So I think indirectly it worked out really, really well for me because it kept me really hungry. And
what a night that was in City Hall.
It was unreal. That night was, I couldn't believe it. Like, when you see the likes of even politically, when you see Simon Coveney and Micheál Martin together and all of the political, how sport brought.
Transcends,
transcends everything. It was a real magical night, like, and I'll never ever forget it, like, and it's something that I'll always be, you know, eternally grateful for. Like, it was amazing, like.
Yeah, you've so much to look back on, and you've seen most of the world, which we'll get to shortly. Just tell us about how difficult it is from an elite sport athlete like yourself, the transition when you retire. How difficult is it after that? Because we've seen a lot of, we say, soccer players, well, high-profile soccer players struggle, for example. Like, how hard is it to walk away from it?
The last year when I went to Rio, I trained so hard that year, and I don't know, I just wasn't enjoying it as much anymore. And now I'm gone the opposite to the way I was in Sydney, where I was all emotion and talent and just had no plan. Now I'm 100% structured. I'm doing all the trip, but I'm just ticking boxes. I went to Rio, and I felt I was really good enough to win a medal there, and I shaved my head the night before and I got badly sunburned. I think that could have contributing as well to getting seriously dehydrated and getting cramps. But even outside of that, there was just something different, like, you know. I wasn't as mad. That desire wasn't as, like, I remember only 2 years earlier thinking in my head, there's not a hope this Russian is going to, you know, there's not a hope I'm going to drive you into the ground. Like, you haven't gone through what I've gone through in life. And now I'm starting to kind of go, this fella's younger, or, you know, I'm getting older now. And I said I'd give it one more year, and then went to London. And then in London was a complete anticlimax for me, and it was a grind from start to finish. And I still ended up finishing 7th in the race. But it was just down to experience and grip. I didn't enjoy it. And then it was like, no. And it was tough coming out of it then, because you're left after putting all your life into sport. You're not after progressing on in a career, then you're just left with nothing, like. And then the opportunity for, very lucky then, the opportunity for Dancing with the Stars came along.
Yeah.
And it kind of, with it not being planned, it gave me, I think I threw myself into something that I had no skill set. I was useless, like. And I thought I was going to win the thing, like. I got to the second last week.
That's right.
So I was like going, oh my God, I'm getting so much enjoyment out of doing something that I'm not good at, but I'm getting better. And I was ended up doing 12 hours a day in studio.
You'll be competitive as well.
Like, competitive, but the draw was that I was getting better. And I remember saying to the dancers at the time, like the likes of Anna and O'Gary, who was fierce competitive as well, and it gets really intense. And I go, guys, you need to relax. Like, if this was a real dancing competition, you wouldn't get outside the parish. You know, you do your best. So, and I was like going, oh, if I can move into something else and I have the same desire to work and the same passion of getting better at something, you know, there is life after sport. And that definitely helped me, but it wasn't planned, you know. Yeah. So I would say to other sport, if you do have that work ethic and you find something that you can improve and you're passionate about, you know, that there is life after sport. Yeah,
you did the Irish, the celebrity fittest family as well. That was tough, I'd say, isn't it?
It was tough because we're retired now, like, you know, and the hilarious thing about that, if I ever got abuse on Twitter when I was kind of competing, I'd be so sensitive to it and I'd get really upset. And after we did Ireland's Fittest Family, you would people going out on Twitter going, oh, there are 2 Olympians and Marion's 8 years retired and 2 babies further down the road, and I only run 50k a week now, so I can drink wine at the weekend. And they're like, I still think I'm an Olympian, this is great, you know. So, but it was very tough, but the kids got us through it. Like Cathal and Megan were brilliant. But we dragged it, but then the pressure that day, there was 10 grand for the win, like. So if you fell off the ball or you couldn't get over it, and it dragged the animal back out all right, like on the day, like, you know. But yeah, it was brilliant to win the money for the Rainbow Club, you know.
Fantastic, great charity. Yeah.
Brilliant.
And just getting to the end of the interview, Rob, you're with Bank of Ireland now, aren't you?
Yeah.
What kind of role have you with Bank of Ireland?
So I do financial literacy in secondary schools in the bank, and I'm in primary schools as well. So basically, like, if we bring it back to my own sports career, and the first 8 or 9 years where I was stone broke, I had very limited options in my life and how I could go to camps, and because I had no idea how to manage my finances. And I think if you develop good financial habits within the kids now, and you develop good saving habits and how to manage your debt and how to pay off your debt, and if you build up a really good credit profile, and if they're aware of that, it gives you a lot more options in life. So we do a lot of financial literacy talks in schools. We set up a bank. I pick a team and they run the team, but I've also combined, after bringing in an initiative this year of Cork's Fittest Schools. So I'm kind of bringing in the finance side and the athletic side together. So I'm kind of doing 4 tests in the school, and I was in Douglas Community School now last week, and we tested 150 kids, and I'm going to try and get the final in Independent Park or Parky Queeve, and just get people active and get them fit and get them financially aware, and you know, so I'm trying to balance kind of financial, physical and mental wellness, like, you know.
Very impressive.
Yeah, so
very
it's
good.
enjoyable.
And just on, we talked about your family and sport, Cathal. You know, obviously he's proven to be a very good footballer.
Yeah.
I just read there a few minutes ago that he's no time for athletics.
He was misquoted, I think.
He was interviewed and he says, I hate athletics.
I think the opportunities getting with playing football with Ireland, or even with Cork City, the support there is so good, Trevor, that I think it's refreshing for him that he just turns up and plays football and he goes home.
He's only 14, is he?
He's only 14.
Yeah, and he's on the Irish team like that. They've won 8 matches in the tournament.
He captained Ireland on Sunday against Australia.
Great.
So
and they won that. That was on the 17th.
They've won their 8 games. Like they've won their 8 games.
There's a tournament coming up now, is there?
They're going to Spain next week. They're playing Holland, Czech Republic, and Spain.
That'll be a real gauge, won't it?
Oh yeah. It's going to be a real gauge. So you're looking, and when you go to football, it's sure you know yourself, being a massive football man, it's a complete minefield altogether. So the amount of clubs now wanting them to go over on trials, there's 7 of them, no, 8 of them. So I just had another call a minute ago, and the agents coming in when they're 14 years, like, relax.
He's a centre back.
He's centre back. Just enjoy, just get better. Get better as a sports person, and these opportunities will open up.
Coaching is there
organically, and the coaching is there. There's really good fellas. Colin Healy, Dave Moore is looking after him now under 15. Billy Woods was brilliant to him last year, you know, and Billy and Dan Murray. They're brilliant guys there, like. And then in the Irish setup, the Irish underage setup with FAI, and I know what all of the negativity going on in the senior side. The underage is absolutely top class, you know, and it's comparable to any really good athletic setup I've seen around the world in all of my travels. So he's in a really good space, you know.
And you just mentioned the travel there, like he has an advantage as well with a dad like yourself, like, you know, you've been through at a very high level to advise him, and you've probably seen nearly the whole world, I'd say. And, you know, England wouldn't be his limitation.
No,
like, he could go to Spain.
He could, like, and he knows the sports, like Trevor Welch was in Australia with us in 2010, 2011, and we got him into school in Australia, and I remember getting him a scrambler for Christmas, and he used to come out and train with me when I was walking, and he used to do my lactics on the track, and like even when I competed in London 2 years ago, Cahill was staying in the same bed with me in Spain because Marion couldn't come, and he was doing all of my drinks, he was doing all of my video work. So it was like, you know, that's why I think he says he hates athletics, because the amount of work that I put on my family, but athletics has served him well because of the discipline, and you need athletics to be a footballer. You have to be athletic because all of the footballers are athletic now. They're big, they're strong, they're fast, and if you have that discipline, you can go really far in the sport as well, you know. Okay,
well, pardon the pun, we'll be watching out for your next step. And pleasure talking to you as always, Rob.
Too,
and you know, best of luck with your walkers as well, and we hope the Irish do well, obviously, in the Olympics in 2020 in Tokyo. It's been a pleasure talking to you on the Works, Talk Sports, and as I always say, they talk about the greats. Rob Heffernan.
Thanks, Trevor. Brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.